either don't have any time to tell you what you need to know, or I've got all the time in the world, and I can't tell which right now. So I'm going to try and move as fast and as intensely as I can through this. That said, if they leave me alive, I'm gonna keep trying to put out more information. I just don't know how much I'm gonna have time for. So, bear with me, try and listen to everything, and remember, just because it's here today doesn't mean it will be here tomorrow. Get copies of this material, pay attention to it. Don't just assume it's a story, even though everything I'm doing is obviously a story. That might be a little too deep for some people, but pay attention. Please, I beg you. Why? Why would I be begging of you? Because it's all about to hit the fan. It's all about to go down, and it's not what you think. This isn't World War III, this isn't Putin getting into it with Trump, this isn't Barack Obama managing to pull something from beyond the presidency out to make the world go down. This isn't the next plague. I wish I could tell you all that it is. I wish I could even express to you what it is. The problem here isn't that I don't want to tell you. Well, there's two issues. The first one, if I actually just flat out gave you all the information, almost none of you would believe me anyway. I could sit here and seriously tell you flat out what's coming, and you'd think that I was spinning a story. That's fine. What we need you to do right now is to become open-minded enough so that when things start to happen, you can see it happening. Most people aren't going to make it. If you do make it, maybe you can live. Probably not. It's just the problem with the end of the world. I hate to tell you, but it's not going to be fun. So, if you want to live, come with me. The second reason, well, it's a little more directed towards me. For about 30 years, I've worked in different, secret organizations. Not all of them were government. Not all of them were the ones that you would pick. I'm not claiming the Freemasons are behind this. I'm claiming that, well, if I told you what was going on, my former employers would have me killed. I quit about 3 months ago, taking an early retirement, cashed out my pension, and, well, vanished for all intents and purposes. And that will last all of 15 minutes if they really start looking for me. So I can't say certain words. I can't say certain things to you. Or I might as well just take the gun next to me and stick it in my mouth and pull the trigger. I don't really want to do that, and I don't want bad things to happen to anybody listening to this. So, for now, boys and girls, it's story time. I'm Ken Jordan, and my job for a long time has been dealing with some freaky shit. Now, a lot of you out there are going to say, well, what do you mean? Are we talking the X-Files here? No. If we were just talking the X-Files, I wouldn't even be bothering you. And nobody would stop me from saying, hey, Spooky Mulder is here and he's going to tell you about aliens, or you know about aliens. If you care to know about them, you know enough. Your mind isn't going to reject the fact that aliens are coming. Will they be aliens the way you're thinking? No. But you'll get the spaceships, you'll get those ideas. That's not even a danger to us. Not really. It's the other stuff. And a lot of those things are, well, there's things that I can't explain to you right now. I could say the words, but you're not going to get it. So I've kind of tried to work out some way of reaching you, all of you. It's not going to work with most. On the good side, we're 4 minutes and 38 seconds in. If you have listened this far, you might have a chance. That doesn't mean you can beat everything that's coming, but if you can see it, you can hide from it. If you can tell that it's there, you can do something about it. Maybe it won't be enough. Sometimes, and trust me, I've dealt with some things over the years that you just had to hope that you were going to survive. But a lot of us didn't. But maybe you can. Maybe some of you can. and that's why I'm here. And that's why I've got to ask, guys, agents, I know this is being monitored. I know it's going to be picked up. Let it go, man. Just let the information get out there. Maybe it's not enough, but maybe there's one guy, maybe there's one woman sitting out there in this audience, one of the 5 that's ever going to listen to this, that can pick up on what I'm saying, that will go through the mini program that I've got going on here to condition their minds to be able to take this information. We'll be able to run with it well enough that in 10 years we still have somebody left. Hey, maybe some of you can do it. Maybe I can do it. Maybe. But the more people we have, the better the odds are that somebody will make it. Maybe they won't. And, well, we can't really risk that. We can't risk not trying. So that's my plea to anybody out there who can stop this. And I know you're listening. I even know some of the names, most likely. All I can say is, hey, Agent Jordan is asking you, don't do it, man. Give us a chance. Give us all a chance to survive. Or at least those that can. Now, the big problem here is your own mind. You've been conditioned your entire life not to accept certain information. You've been conditioned to believe that everything that's a little out there is a fringe conspiracy theory, or is just woo-woo, or just some kind of strange dream state, or possibly a hallucination. I know you've been conditioned to think that way because, well, my organization, and to an extent myself, have set up the programs to cause that to happen. We've infiltrated television, radio, music, even your school courses. If you've ever attended a college in North America, and most of the rest of the world, you've suddenly been led to believe that, well, only what you can see, touch, feel, and are told is reality is real. There are some reasons for that. The biggest one is that a lot of people can't see past that. About 20% of people can naturally get that sometimes things are going on. Now, they're not always the smartest people. They're not always the bravest. They're not always the best. But still about 20%. Some people say it's up to about 30%, can pick up that something is going on. If things happen right in front of them, they can get it, kind of. And they can sort of remember it later. Another third of the people, it's a little hazier. Those people, well, I mean, you probably have known people like this if you paid attention. They'll see something happening, they'll believe it to be different, and when you talk to them a week later or a month later, they will steadfastly say, no, it was this other thing, not what happened. And short of showing them on video that they're wrong, they're never going to believe you. Well, the same is true of the freaky stuff. The weird stuff in the world is exactly like that for those people as well. And then, of course, you have the last third. A vampire could fly down from the sky in the form of a bat, transform in front of them, drink their blood, and fly off, and they would just say, hey, there was a bat. They cannot get what's going on, and those people are going down. I don't think you can keep them alive, and if you figure out who they are in your life, all I can say is write them off now, because in 5 years, they're probably not going to be here anymore. And if you try and keep them alive, you're going to die doing it. Okay, so on that cheery note, there is some information online that is somewhat similar to, well, basically what my career has been about. Now, when I say similar, I am not claiming this is real. I'm not claiming that it is exactly the same. I am not claiming anything. I am saying that there are some stories which, if you went to the right website, which is the SCP Foundation, there we go, I'm going to look at it on the screen here, the SCP Foundation, you'll be able to get a sense of what some of the things are like. Now, what my plan is to try and help people out here is to go through several of these things, maybe hundreds of them with you, and talk about each of the stories. Now, it'd be best if you read it as well, because the more inured your mind is to this kind of thing, the more capable you're going to be of understanding it when it starts to happen in front of you. I can't tell you what exactly is coming. Quite frankly, I wouldn't survive trying. And even if I did it, like I said, most of you right now wouldn't get it. So, it's story time. Now, don't get me wrong. These SCPs, these are stories. But the ones I'm telling you about have some similarities with things that might be other than just stories. Hopefully, you can read between the lines and understand what I'm saying. Now, I'm not doing all of them, and I'll announce the number of the SCP that I'm reading off, and I'm gonna truncate parts of it. It's really worth going through and trying to read the whole thing for yourself. The first one I'd like to address is SCP-017. Now, the description of SCP-017 is a humanoid figure, approximately 80 centimeters in height, anatomically similar to a small child, but with no discernible identifying features. The subject seems composed of a shadowy smoke-like shroud. No attempt to find any object beneath the shroud has been successful, but the possibility has not been ruled out. The subject's reaction to shadows cast upon it is immediate and swift. It leaps at the object casting the shadow and completely encloses it in its shroud, whereupon it returns to its normal size, leaving no trace of the object behind. Okay, shadow people are real. And I'm just going to flat out tell you that this is the case. On 2 different occasions in my life, I have witnessed very clear sightings of these individuals. All of them were much bigger and older seeming than this and did not have a shroud on at all. Nor did they leap on anything like that. But one did manage to throw a package of matches at my back once. So that means it was physical enough to hurl an object at me. Not hard, but it did get my attention. Something that is not in most of the literature, but seems to have actually followed suit in both personal interviews on this and my own sightings of these things. Shadow people often wear hats. And they're usually funny golf-style hats, if that means anything to you, like the caddy cap. I don't know what kind of cap that's called, but that type of cap is often seen on the shadow people, black, 3-dimensional shadow. Why this is, I do not know. Love if it, made sense to you. Now, what I can tell you is that about half of them are perfectly harmless. The other half, some bad things happen. And while I never had this happen, sometimes it has been suggested from video evidence that making people disappear is one of their abilities. We don't know why. It very often does not seem to need a shroud around the wall to do it. But then again, this SCP-017 is a story. But it's something worth reading. It's something worth understanding and paying attention to. Now, SCP-026. Right, this one. This one is a building. It's a public school, in fact. SCP-026 is a 3-story public school building, built in, redacted. The SCPs, one of the things they love to do is redact dates. I've got to tell you from actual files, nobody redacts the dates. Sometimes locations, sometimes proper names, but never dates. It's just, I guess whoever came up with this particular SCP genre, subgenre, figured that was something, but if you ever research official government or extra-governmental documents, everybody leaves the date in. I don't know what that's about. But still, it's a story. I guess it kind of adds to it. Anyway, so the building has 2 wings connected to a central foyer. It was declared condemned and redacted again after it was found that the floor plan didn't match up with the building's blueprints. It came to the Foundation's attention after several disappearances in the area were linked to visits to the abandoned building. People breaking in, things like that, you know. The building demonstrates spatial anomalies, and this is the part that I want you to pay attention to. The building demonstrates spatial anomalies. Its internal space is much greater than the external surface of the building would allow. Hallways display variable length, while stairways have different numbers of steps going up or down. The number of rooms off the hallways changes each time they are counted. Attempts to reach the far ends of hallways have met with failure thus far. Entrance through the fire escapes located at the ends of the hallways leads to doors approximately midway down the length of the halls. Okay, there's way more of this. It's a good read. It's a good conditioning exercise for your brain. But the fact is that places very often show spatial anomalies like this. You've probably been in buildings that have minor things like this going on. And if you've ever traveled, say, on a car trip or something over a long area, particularly places where human beings are not, you may very well find things happening. For instance, like your car showing that you've driven 50 miles, but the map and the GPS showing that you've driven 200 miles. This kind of spatial distortion is really common. And it's largely hidden. Matter of fact, it's so well hidden that while most people have things like this that have happened in their life, they don't even mention it to other people. They just assume that they were wrong. But in a building, particularly things like stairs having different numbers going up than down, certain people, counters, people who are very OCD about things like that, can be horribly vexed. Now, I've never been in a building that has had hallways that you couldn't reach the end of or anything nearly that dramatic, but I have gone down the 11-step stairs and up the 13. I have seen this over and over again. Matter of fact, well, okay, I've seen it 3 times, but I have seen this before. This is a common enough issue in real life. Now, the changing amount of rooms, things like that, I've heard some stories. I've never been in any place that the rooms didn't connect up with the room next door most of the time. I've been in a couple of places where there was a claim that that had happened to somebody else, but it just didn't happen to me. But I have heard of places where in a room with one door, you walk in from the hallway and out into another room through the same door. So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that this particular SCP is based on a real location, but it wouldn't shock me to find out that whoever wrote this actually has had some interesting things go on in their life. Now, SCP-029. Okay, yeah, now this one, SCP-029, appears to be a pubescent female of Asiatic Indian descent, an Indian woman. She appears to suffer from alopecia universalis. That means all the hair is gone all over her body. Over 80% of her pigmentation is true black, which is a rare mutation, but it is something that can happen. It's a deep brown that pretty much looks like like a pure black. Close enough that most people's eyes can't discern the color differentiation. Oddly enough, about 4% of women have an extra chromosome, which allows them to see more colors than other people do. So they could probably tell. Well, I have seen people like this, and they just look really black to me. Well, the rest of her skin has a complete lack of melanin, to the point of albinism. Also, a thing that has been seen, I mean, it's not even that rare. Vitiligo, I believe, is what it's called. Her eyes are also dark black in color. That's fairly rare. Some Asian people have deep brown eyes, which are called black, but it's still deep brown. The subject has severe homicidal tendencies and has displayed a remarkable ability to use any item as a weapon. However, she has a severe compulsion against shedding blood, preferring instead to strangle her victims. Okay, now if you're going to use anything as a weapon, and you prefer to strangle your victims, you can't really use everything to strangle with. A knife is not great for that kind of thing. You just don't strangle easily with it. You can, I suppose, with some long bludgeons, but I do get what they're going for here. The subject has demonstrated dexterity and physical reactions 4 times as fast as the average human. She has also displayed extensive resistance to damage of all forms. Now, that one is pretty important. It's really hard for a normal person without testing equipment to say, oh, this very quick person was 4 times faster than average. We really don't know that kind of thing, and we're not good judges of it. But you can tell if you're beating someone and they're not taking damage. You can tell if you're stabbing them or shooting them and they don't go down. Both of these extra-human abilities are greatly hampered in the presence of bright or direct light, natural or artificial. Photosensitivity, altering physical characteristics, is not at all unheard of. That is a thing that I have read about. I've not witnessed it myself unless we're going to count some video. In addition, any males who come within the presence of the subject, an area defined by her current perception, finds themselves pliant to her will. Such males become willing to kill or even die for SCP-029. Now, these are the salient parts of this. You have the ability to control a specific gender, and become pliant to basically a woman's will, which is the most common of that type of thing. Where you have a woman who is either very good at controlling other women or men. It is far rarer that the conditions set up for a man to be able to do that. When that happens, they tend to ascend to political power. For that, I would suggest looking at Abraham Lincoln. Yeah, I'm just going to drop that one right there, because I'm kind of saying that Abraham Lincoln was an anomaly. SCP-040. Let's see here. This is a Caucasian female, approximately 8 years old, standing 1 meter in height. Has numerous physical abnormalities. Physical abnormalities often go hand in hand with our ability to determine who has extra-normal abilities, but having extra fingers, toes, strange-colored eyes, strange hair is not necessarily an honest marker of that. It's kind of believed in the field that most of the people with extra-normal abilities are perfectly normal-looking, and thereby go without being noticed most of the time. In this case, the subject skin is highly sensitive to light, which, again, is something that I've seen before, and easily damaged by physical contact. And the subject's hair is a bright pink in coloration. This hair is brittle and falls out easily. The subject displays green/yellow heterochromia, with the sclera of the left... I just stumbled over that. With the sclera of the left eye black in coloration. So the whites of the left eye are black, and one eye is green and the other yellow. SCP-040 has no sight in the all-black sclera eye. I'm adding a little to it, that's why I suddenly got rough there, trying to make that seem sensible. Okay, emotional state, which, since it's a story, we can just skip past. Okay, here we go. The subject is capable of manipulating living matter, mutating and modifying existing organisms in order to create new ones, collectively referred to as SCP-040-1. This effect is at will, but requires significant focus and time to enact, and becomes increasingly unreliable and inaccurate when manipulating details through small-scale modifications. SCP-040 is incapable of altering microscopic organisms, and has great difficulty in altering plant life. Dead organic matter may also be used, but must be used in conjunction with a living organism. Okay, now that is the salient point. We have someone who can manipulate living matter changing it. Takes focus, they do it over time. This is a known ability. It is one that has been hidden from you. You have not heard of this at psychic fairs. You have probably not read about it in books about things, because this is a true power. It's a slow power, but anybody possessing this ability, and I'm going to go out on a limb here and say, at least some of you listening have this ability at some level, even though it's untrained, basically can cause genetic changes in other people to their own end goal. You want your girlfriend to be better looking or have a bigger bust line, you can, over the course of weeks and months, bring that about. You want someone's heart disease to reverse itself? It's doable. Most of the time, people who have this ability do not ever learn of it. But it is believed to have been the basis of at least one proto-culture that we have lost on this planet. Now, that was some 50,000 years ago, supposedly before human beings were really a thing the way we are now. History's a little bit different, at least that's what I've been told, but do recall, anytime you're dealing with spooks, anytime you're dealing with anybody from any alphabet agency, remember, 50% of what they know is bullshit, and that includes me. So while I'm giving you some information, if I haven't seen it myself, take it with a grain of salt. In this case, I can tell you this ability exists. I've seen it. I've seen people do these things. Like I said, maybe try it out on some flowers, see if you can change the color or something as they grow. It might take some time, but could be worth it. Having an extra ability, even a slow one, may be helpful. Okay. SCP-041. This is a male suffering from irreversible damage to the central nervous system. In this case, they're saying it was a rare strain of bacterial meningitis. Antibiotics were successful, but brain damaged. Still alive, but needs a respirator to sustain breathing, a biventricle pacemaker to keep the heart beating, and a nasogastric tube to provide nutrition. So, a vegetable. However, anybody in SCP-041's presence who verbalizes a thought, who begins to say a word, will have that thought broadcast in a semi-audible fashion over a certain area. Let's see, do they give us the, don't see it right here if they don't have it like marked off in meters or something. Usually an ability like this will be over a fairly small area. What happens is that some people have the ability, and it's going to sound a little bit weird, but what's actually going on is that the tympanic membranes in their ears vibrate when they think something. And for some people with particularly good hearing who also have this ability, they will broadcast an extremely high frequency sound that other people who are close enough can pick up through their skin, and it will sound like the voice is coming inside their head. I believe the range for this is somewhere around 20 to 40,000 hertz. And, I mean, you normally hear things between 30 and 2,000 odd hertz, somewhere around there. You can probably go higher than that if your hearing doesn't suck. So we tend to do our daily operations in this lower phase, and if at a close enough distance somebody is projecting a sound in that range, you can pick it up and hear it as a thought in your head. If that is the case with this, and I'm not saying it is, it could be true telepathy, but in general you don't find people with getting voices in their head from true telepathy. That's a different ability. This sounds like it is our secondary hearing response, which is believed to actually be an aquatic adaptation, as odd as that sounds. of interest, people who swim with dolphins often hear things like this through the water that they're in, and they basically hear dolphin sounds inside their head. Now, that's not everybody. I've never swum with dolphins to have a personal experience that way. I have heard of people having that, and clearly I have had the devices placed on my body which have produced sounds that do seem like they're silent talking inside your head, and it's pretty eerie. But my guess is something like that is what's going on rather than actual telepathy. I can't prove it. That's just my thought on it. Let's see. SCP-046. Let's see. Oh, yeah. This one's lovely. SCP-046 is a predatory botanical mass located in southwestern Kentucky, where they do indeed have some predatory biological masses, though most of them are actually fairly harmless and just choke out other vegetative material, as opposed to actually hunting people and animals. I believe this one, let's see, is supposed to be a little bit more vicious and actually go after mobile prey, capable of tracking it within 50-kilometer radius through hallucinogenic means, and then killing it, kind of like a Venus flytrap. You know, this seems a little bit out there, having people drawn to your animals and then have self-destructive tendencies, but honestly, that's not unheard of. I can't say that I've seen a plant specifically like this, but honestly, it's almost like I've read this before out of a far more official file. This is SCP-046, so I definitely say pay attention and read up on this one. Okay, now, SCP-047. You can tell I'm just running through these in order. And they're well worth reading the stories just for the stories. And again, these are stories. I'm not trying to sell you on these things being real. These are just stories. The idea is to get the mind used to dealing with the strange and the odd. SCP-047 is a heavily rusted, breached gas cylinder made of an iron, redacted, alloy. Again, nobody would redact the alloy, even if it was iron baby blood. They would not redact. Okay, never mind. I'm getting picky with it. These are just stories. When exposed to open air, the material of the cylinder evaporates slowly, producing a previously undocumented mutagenic gas. This gas has no effect on eukaryotic organisms. I have no clue if I just pronounced eukaryotic correctly. Do feel free to correct me down below if I mess that one up. I'm sure I've messed up other things too. But profoundly alters prokaryotes, showing preference for common human microbiota, the natural microorganisms that live on the skin and throughout the body. On rare occasions, these mutations produce a superbug, collectively known as SCP-0471, a natural commensal. Interesting. That is not a word that I've seen used that way before. With enhanced survivability and, therefore, opportunistic pathogenicity. Okay, as you can probably tell, I am not a scientist. I was a field agent. I recognize the words, and trust me, pathogenicity came out correctly in my head the first time. The pattern of changes induced by SCP-047 suggests that these highly infectious microbes are, at least to some degree, selected for. Okay, what we're looking at here are mutagens which create changes in common bacteria. These are around us constantly, and not just in the natural world. Both in man-made and, quite frankly, anything that human beings do causes something like this to happen. Most of the time in a fairly neutral fashion. What they're talking about here is that things seem selected for, which seems to be saying there's some acting principle behind it. That is a thing that can happen. Even in things that seem like they otherwise would not have intelligence guiding systems. We don't always know why that happens. Let's see, that was SCP-047. And I'm just going to go through here. The cursed SCP number. Plague Doctor. Oh, Plague Doctor. Yeah. Let me do that one. That is SCP-049. I think I'm going to leave this one to be the last one for this first set. I'll go get some water and try and go through more of it. And in the next installment of these, I will try to explain a little bit more about why I'm doing this, and why it needs to be done, and why people need to listen to it. Okay, SCP-049 is a humanoid in appearance, standing at 1.9 meters tall and weighing, approximately, I'm sure, 95.3 kilograms. Did they get it on a scale? Well, anyway. However, the Foundation is currently incapable of studying its face and body more fully, as it is covered in what appears to be the garb of a traditional plague doctor from the 15th to 16th century Europe. This material is actually part of the body, as microscopic and genetic testing show it to be similar in structure to muscle, although it feels much like rough leather and the mass is much like ceramic. Interesting. It was originally discovered in redacted England. Now, that kind of thing would sometimes be redacted, particularly if it's a small location, in case something gets out to keep people from hunting for these things in various locations. Normally, that's a bad idea and ends up with missing persons. Now, this one is just out there. And to the best of my knowledge, we have no sentient, immortal, walking plague doctors. This one does experiments on people that turns them into zombies. I'm just zooming ahead a little bit here. But there are strange things out there. Many things that quite clearly used to be human. And that's why I'm pointing this one out. There are even things stranger than this. So I definitely say, great, now I'm going to have to get that out of there, aren't I? So I definitely say, go ahead and read these. Make sure that you give all of these a look. I'll leave the link for the SCP Foundation website below. You can read all of these stories. It won't hurt their hit count. Some of them you can listen to on YouTube if you prefer to listen to things like this. I don't do that. I'm just doing commentary on this for other reasons. And I will talk to you next time. Be prepared. Get prepared. This is way more serious than it sounds. I know. I'm telling you stories. You know, why should you do anything based on this? But I can only beg. Please. Just please.